Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 58. We got coaching changes and a little combine preview. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory in partnership with Dynasty Daddy. And then, as always, Fantasy Football Infinity. We got the Menage a Trois back. We're back to a three-way. That's not the right term. Anyway, McSpanky Holler, how's it going?
What's up? A special guest appearance by your dog, it sounded like. So that's exciting.
Yes, my dogs are down here in this room with me because we have the new babies. They're pretty much set to the basement at this point, and they've been spending a lot of cage time, a lot of alone time. So hopefully they just lay down and they don't decide to play with each other, because if they play with each other, it's going to sound like somebody's killing somebody in here.
Wow. Yeah, I know how that is. I've got two dogs as well, and we had to put them in their kennels for a bit once the baby came in. They're back to their roaming, so we're all right now.
Nice. We're doing it like slowly at a time. Yeah. So one of the dogs is super gentle, Sophie, and we had no problems with her. But Jimmy, the husky mix that we have, he's about 90 pounds and he is dumb as shit.
Yeah.
And he's just like nuzzling and like smacking babies. We're like, dude, you gotta calm it down if you're gonna be up here, man. So it's been a process. He's doing better now though.
That's good. My dogs are always pretty good with the babies. Now, granted, my dogs are all like under 20 pounds, so it wasn't
a little different.
It wasn't a huge concern to begin with.
Sure. Should we get into the fantasy football to stop talking about my dogs? Unless you guys want to talk about my dogs.
I thought this was the dog podcast. My bad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not?
The dog pod.
The dog pod. Ooh. Okay, so in the news, we got T. Higgins getting the franchise tag. What do you guys think about this? You guys think he's getting tagged and traded?
No, I think they're going to pay him. They have a decent amount of cap space. I think I don't have the exact number in my head, but I remember they're like one of the top, like I want to say like 7 or 8 teams in terms of cap space. So I'm assuming they're going to work on a deal for him. And I think this is probably best case scenario for Higgins. Kind of attach to Joe Burrow and he can play outside of Jamar Chase. I mean, if he goes somewhere else, he could be the guy. But what if he's not, the guy? Right? He's better suited as a 2, and it's hard to. You can't exactly upgrade from Joe Burrow. I mean, you can, but there's very few guys where that was actually an option.
Right? So. Yeah, it's a short list. They are 8th in total cap at $52 million.
Yeah, so they have a lot of cap, and a lot of money to spend. And I don't see T. Higgins as a 1A. I think he could be like, always be a 1B and be super, obviously I think he's inflated a little bit being connected to Joe Burrow. But I think if he were to go, be on his own, I don't think we would, reap the same benefits as he does in Cincinnati. So I don't know that I'm kind of in the boat of, I think they're going to tag him and see how he does this year and then figure it out going forward. I think they still have some holes at running back. I think they bring back Joe Mixon, but with T. Higgins, I think they're going to tag him. I don't think they'll trade him. There's a lot of rumors out there, but I don't think they trade him.
Yeah, they do have to pay Jamar Chase soon as well.
Exactly.
And he's probably going to get the bulk of that cash. But also, I think T. Higgins is pretty darn good. He had that Minnesota game with Jake Browning where he was out there just ripping the ball out of the sky. You know what I mean? So it could go either way because you could replace him if you get enough in return with how deep this wide receiver class is.
But yeah, I mean,
in theory, you can replace T. Higgins.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is like that's kind of tough. Like I think. Say he were to move on. I think he would be one of the, like, if we want to comp him to any of these rookies coming out, I think he'd be one of the better ones, to be honest. So we've already seen what he does. We've already seen what he can do, so I just think if he does move on, I still think he's going to be a solid wide receiver, and overall he is, but I just think he's best suited to stay in Cincinnati. And I think it's the same way for Cincinnati themselves.
Sure.
What I was gonna say is I don't think any teams are going to want to pay him for what he gives you, the cost to trade for him and then also give him the contract. Whereas you could just keep probably your 2nd round pick and just take one of these receivers because it is a deep receiver class, right? So I think it's a more cost effective solution. So I think for that reason, I think it's hard for Cincinnati to find a an actual trade partner there, so that it makes more sense just to tag and keep them. And
see. Exactly. I mean, obviously, like I said, I think he's better than many of these rookies coming out, but it's much more cost effective for them to get a rookie than it is to go out and buy T. Higgins.
Definitely. I agree. Okay, so on to maybe Atlanta. The Justin Fields trade rumors have been a fly-in. They have the video that comes out where he, you can hear somebody ask Justin Fields. I believe it's his agent that says, "Are you ready to go home?" Is what is said in that video, and Justin Fields is all psyched and geeked, and it feels like at this point it's pretty much a done deal. We're just kind of waiting for it to happen and be official. Probably the new league year has to roll over for that to happen. And what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think they can agree in principle to a trade. I don't think it can actually get processed till the new league year starts, but
Sure.
it definitely sure sounded like either his agent or his friend or someone was like, "Oh, you ready to go home?" And he's hella psyched, right? So I like him in Atlanta. I think that's awesome. I think that's a good offense for him.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. I like Raheem Morris a lot. I like Ben. Make sure I say this right. It's Ben Zach Robinson. Thank you. Jeez. And so I just think
starting to get there.
Yeah. And I just think he does a good job with quarterbacks. So I think a fresh start's going to be really, really good for Justin Fields. And I do know there's still rumors. So it'll be not holding my breath, but I think it's almost a done deal. And like you said, I'm pretty stoked about it. I think it's really, really good for Bijan, really good for Drake London. I'm not holding out hope for Kyle Pitts, but it's probably good for Kyle Pitts as well. So I just think overall, I think this would be really good for Justin Fields in Atlanta.
You can talk yourself into Kyle Pitts again pretty easily.
Because Cole Kmet was tight end 8 on the year.
How often Fields threw to Kmet, and I mean, say what you want about Kyle Pitts, he's more athletic than Cole Kmet. So they got rid of Jonnu Smith, who was stealing playing time from Pitts. So
the ultimate tight end there.
Yep,
it's looking up. Looking up.
Kyle Pitts to Seattle or to the Steelers, done deal.
You mean John?
Sorry, Jonnu Smith. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to.
Probably.
That's what I was going to ask next. Is John going straight to Pittsburgh with Arthur Smith, and he's going to ruin Freiermuth for whatever Freiermuth's worth at this point? A long time ago in the Discord, I used to have to argue Freiermuth versus Cole Kmet. Look where we're at today. Anyway,
where are we at today?
Cole Kmet, tight end 8, man. He had a tight end 8 year. Hey.
That's fair.
Freiermuth is not up there, but anyway, I'll take it. So I think that's pretty much it for the news. Nothing else huge. Any other lingering news? Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a pretty slow time. Other than I think we're about to get a decent amount of news, just because the combine is this week, which is super exciting.
There's a lot of swirling rumors and things coming out from the combine, but nothing really too noteworthy, other than exactly. So
Coach speak.
There'll be some more news next week once we hear everything from the combine and we digest a little bit, but we can get into that combine preview.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So I see we got some 40-yard dash props on here. Where are you guys putting the money?
Yeah. So let me just read through some of these. So I happened to find this right before the show. Price Picks put their player props online that you can bet on now for 40-yard dash time. Some of the receivers and running backs that stood out to me. So let me go through these. Xavier Worthy is the fastest at 4.3. So a 4.3 flat, that's flying, dude. I think only a handful of guys have gone sub 4.3. I think John Ross was one at a 4.28. I think he ran. So that's hella fast. That's world class speed. So if he runs under a 4.3, that's nutter butters. But not too far behind that, Roman Wilson, Jermaine Burton, and Xavier Leggett at 4.32. Rome Odunze at 4.36, Troy Franklin 4.36. That's 7 wide receivers that they have projected going in the 4.3s. This is they expect this to. I don't know if it's a fast track out in Indy right now, or if this is just an insanely fast.
It is. They
Wide
talked about
receiver
it last year.
but
They put some new turf down. Seriously, it was like a big thing because like all kinds of records were set last year, and like everybody was faster than all the classes combined previously, and they were talking about new turf was down there, and it's just faster in Indy now. 4 of those times.
Imagine what
Xavier
Kyron
Leggett kind of stands out to me on this because I watched the film and maybe he runs this fast. He does not play that fast.
Fair.
I don't think he plays at that speed.
Yeah,
was. Go ahead, Holler.
I was just gonna say like these numbers are like look really good and really fast, but I feel like only a few of these guys can actually translate that to playing that fast, right? And so, like someone like Xavier Worthy, that guy, he to me kind of that one doesn't really stand out because I feel like that's what he does. He just runs down the field and then you throw the ball up to him, right? And so, same with Troy Franklin. Not saying that he just runs on the field and you throw the ball up to him, but I think he is very fast and. But I say like I like Troy Franklin a lot more than Xavier Worthy. Don't get me wrong, but like just overall, these numbers seem very fast, and I feel like only a few of these guys can actually translate that speed into game speed.
That hurt my soul. You talking about Troy Franklin that way? I was actually going to say the opposite. That I thought Troy Franklin is one that I think legitimately plays that fast.
Yeah,
and well, I think he actually can run a route tree too, where I don't think
same
as Xavier Worthy. And then Roman Wilson, everything I've heard is this dude is just lightning quick. And you can kind of see it. Like he didn't get the ball a ton at Michigan, but when he did, like dude has some jets. Like I feel like he's one of these guys who's really kind of primed for. Let's say he runs a 4.32, and also Ron and I were listening to the Draft Dudes this last week, and they were saying that supposedly he can run like a 3.8 shuttle, which I think only 3 players in the history of the combine have run that fast before. So if he puts those 2 times together, his draft stock is already kind of climbing due to the Senior Bowl and how he stood out there. Like he could sneak into early second round, late second round, somewhere in that range. And if it's a good landing spot, like I could we were talking before the show, if he somehow makes it to Kansas City at the back of the second round, like all of a sudden he's getting taken in the back end of the first of Superflex rookie drafts. So
well, I've seen him mocked to Kansas City in the first round, in the back end of the first, not even in the back end of the second. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. I won't be surprised if he runs these super fast times that everybody's talking about. Michigan always has the freaky athletic guys. You can go back to Nico and DPJ, and they are freak athletes. I know one's actually good at football and one is just on a roster, but freak athletes for sure. You guys think Ladd McConkey can play at that speed, 4.58?
That's super slow. That's why I put that on there.
I feel like it's slow for him.
Yeah.
I do too. I feel like he looks faster on the field.
My only thinking with that is that maybe he plays faster and doesn't run well like in a straight line.
Bad tester.
But I mean, he returns punts and like they send him on like jet sweeps and stuff. So I would be shocked if he ran a 4.58 if he wasn't faster. I was thinking kind of in my head, I had him more of like a high 4.4 guy. So
there's your prop.
That
makes
sense.
Under. Smash. And then I got the other one to match it. Blake Corum just smash the over on 4.39. Just watching him play, there's not a chance this dude runs a 4.3 anything. Like unless they only time him for the last 30 yards of his smash, dude.
Yeah. I was going to make the point that just maybe it's his running style, but we've seen him in the open field. And in the open field, he's not breaking away. He's getting run down consistently. Yep. He is good side to side for sure. I could see that shuttle being fast, and the shuttle being good for him. 3-cone, kind of that deal, but not the 40. Not honestly, how much do we really actually care about these other than betting on them? For an actual takeaway.
For wide receivers, I don't very much at all. For running backs, I do a little bit just because their speed score and their BMI, so their height and weight, and then their speed score actually do correlate pretty nicely to fantasy production. It's a little stickier than you would imagine. For wide receivers, it doesn't really mean much, but for the running backs, I actually do care about their measurements.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is like I feel like as a wide receiver, like if you get open, we don't really care how you do it, right? But as a running back, you want to that speed matters. So it's one of the elements, in my opinion. And so I think I'm going to pay more attention to the running backs than I do the wide receivers for the 40-yard dash. And also it's just, it's just, fun to watch overall.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely fun to watch. Definitely give some talking points. Kind of the reason I bring it up is one of the reasons that Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't going to run is they have all the GPS speeds on him already, game speed style. So, it's definitely some double counting, as JB always says, when you see these things come out here. I would venture a guess that 99% of these dudes already have GPS tracking on them that are going to go to the combine.
Yep.
So
totally.
Any of these running backs, Audric Estime at 4.48 sticks out to me.
Yeah.
Because he's a big boy.
Yep.
He has speed. Like if you watch specifically the NC State game, I think he had like 2 80-yard runs in that thing. He's got some juice, dude. Like for a big boy, he gets motoring.
Yeah. So with him, I watched him a few times, and I feel like I didn't see him get run down the same way that Blake Corum does. Right. I'm not obviously they're different builds and things like that, but I just feel like kind of what Spanky was saying is he does have some speed, and so I think I'm going to be I really like Estime, and I'm really going to be interesting to see if he can beat that prop time, and another one for me would be Jalen Wright. He's getting a lot of hype, and so I know speed is one of them for him, but I'm just looking forward to see what he does.
They have him down at a 4.31, which that's really fast. If he runs a 4.31, I think he sneaks into the back of day 2, so probably a back end round 3 pick, which really that's the draft capital you're looking for a running back. And I don't know, guys. I mean, guys like Daniel Jeremiah really like Jalen Wright. I heard him talk really positively about him, and some scouts around the league supposedly really like him too. I'm a little mixed on him personally. Now, granted, I'm not a scout, so I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that what my viewing of his film means versus actual scouts, but he's fast, so that's half the battle.
Yep.
Yeah, he definitely could be useful. I watched a little bit of Jalen Wright, after all that hype started coming out. I think the thing that he does best is he can get you 2 to 3 yards, even if it's not blocked up for that. He's going to get what's there. He's going to end a little bit more. I don't think he's any sort of super running back or anything like that, but this speed helps, and we see these dudes getting the ball in space now and make one guy miss, and you have this kind of speed. It can be lights out at that point.
What I will say is he didn't really get a ton of involvement in the passing game, which is a little concerning. But not to say he can't do it.
Right? Is that a scheme thing? Because I know Tennessee has a weird offensive scheme, and also we got to think about who's throwing the ball on that short pass. It's Joe Milton, and Joe Milton only has one ball, and that's fast and hard. Dude, 90 miles an hour coming 5 yards away is not fun.
Yep.
That's for sure.
And he just hucks it down the field. Valid. So,
totally valid.
Yeah. If Uncle Rico were ever a quarterback for real, he is Joe Milton. If he bragged about his skills, I can throw it a country mile, and that is it.
For sure.
That's good. I love that. Good comp there.
Should we get into the guys we're kind of excited to see what happens with them here now?
For sure.
So I put Michael Penix on here. It's not really somebody I'm like super excited to see, but I think the biggest thing for him is I'm looking forward to his medicals, right? And getting some real answers, because if he has not saying a clean bill of health, but I think he could not keep falling if he comes in there and we get some better answers, right? In my opinion, though, it's really not going to change too much. But I do think that's kind of like a highlight for some of our quarterbacks, because our other 3 or 4, if we want to call them, we already kind of know what they are. And so if if we could, I mean, maybe I'll say 5 or 4 or 5 because Bo Nixon I'll throw in there as well. But Michael Penix is the one that I think still has question marks about him, and so I think medical is the biggest one. I know he's a little bit older, so I think this one is for him. I don't really care too much about all the other things, but I just want to get some answers from the medical things.
Honestly, I think Penix is probably closer to QB8 now, right? Behind
that's
Michael Pratt and Spencer Rattler's been getting a lot of buzz too.
Rattler's getting a lot.
So
definitely.
I kind of have those guys all in a mesh, right? 6, 7, and 8
Sure.
are all kind of in a mesh right now. And so I think if we could get, I know, and I think the biggest issue with Penix right now are his medicals, right? His injuries are a big issue. A little bit older. Obviously, as well, he kind of just stands there in the pocket and, not very mobile or anything like that.
Right.
But I just think if we can get some answers with his injuries, I think that will help him, and maybe he can be a firm 6 versus a 6, 7, or 8.
Yeah, he's definitely going to need an offensive line like what he stood behind in Washington, where he can just stand there and pat the ball all day and just, he's going to need 3, blistering, awesome wide receivers as well.
Yeah. Yep. I think for him, it's not going to change too much. I still think he's going to be like around 5 or 6 guy. But I just think maybe if he could maybe jump from 8 to 6 or 8 to 7 or something like that, but he's not going to jump any of those other 5 quarterbacks.
I just don't, analytically speaking, and again, I'm not a scout, so film is what it is, but numbers, I feel pretty confident in my ability to put numbers into a spreadsheet. He doesn't really hit a lot of the metrics that you're looking for in terms of throwing. Like his combined, his adjusted completion percentage is low, his passer rating's bad. I mean, he doesn't really run the ball. He just has no rushing upside. When he's pressured, his adjusted completion percentage is bad. At the medium and deep throws, adjusted completion percentage is bad. Like the one thing he did do is he threw a decent amount of touchdowns, which is nice. He's just not good. Like nothing about his profile is like, yes, I like this guy as my quarterback. He just kind of does things, and part of it, the offense he played in, he was throwing to 3 wide receivers who were probably going to go in the first 3 rounds of the draft. I mean, including Roma Dunze, who's a top 10 pick. So
and Giles Jackson,
and
I just like Giles Jackson. I don't know if it's his name or
I remember you telling me about him.
But
and he even had a good running back. So that whole offense was really good. The offensive coordinator is really good. So he had everything lined up perfectly for him to succeed, and he was mediocre at quarterback. So I think just overall he's pretty mediocre. But I just thought his medicals were standing out here. Other than that, I don't like. And I wanted to throw a quarterback on here just because there's not much out of the other guys that were really like too many question marks on the other 5 quarterbacks, to be honest.
Well, and a lot of the quarterbacks aren't. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams aren't working out, right? At the combine, they're just.
I don't think May is
until the pro day
either.
Is May not?
I don't think he's going to throw.
And there's no reason for them to. Is the thing
exactly
right?
Exactly.
That's a lot of the thing that I'm hearing now is like, kind of like with. Like what I said with Marvin Harrison, they already have the GPS tracking. They already have the tape. Some of these dudes, all the combine could do to them is actually hurt them. If they don't come out there and crush it, throwing to wide receivers they've never thrown to ever until this weekend, like that could actually hurt their draft stock or, hurt them in the eyes of the public, whatever. So I completely get it. I mean, you've already put it all on tape. Why do I have to go out here in my shorts? It doesn't have much to do with football. The interviews are the important part here.
Yep.
Well, at this point. And for to drive that point home further, Zach Wilson had one of the best pro days and combine performances in shorts. And look, he's not exactly a standout NFL quarterback.
No,
so it doesn't.
No, it's
really equate.
It's the perfect environment, for you that you're supposed to go in and and be these things. You want to talk about Bucky Irving? I'm going to guess this is you, McSpanky.
Yeah, you know I love me some Bucky Irving. So his profile is pretty good, right? Everything he really does, he does well. Like he has a missed tackle forced over 23% of his carries, which is what you want. The really things that are lacking here. His yards per route run is really high. Yards after contact is good. The thing that's lacking for him is he's a little undersized. And for his speed, for his size, he's not overly fast. So some of the things that are holding him back on his profile is his BMI isn't over 29, which is what the kind of the threshold you want to see him hit, and then his speed score is under 100, which is also the speed score you want to see. So what I'm really looking for is I hope he's listed at 5'10", like 195, which I don't think he is. He looks smaller
Probably
than that.
not.
Like,
Yeah.
And I think if he's more like 5'8" and still in the 190s, that actually is more helpful for him, because it gives him a better BMI because he's a little bit stockier, rather than trying to make him tall. And I'm hoping he gets a 40-yard dash time in the mid 4.4s, and I think that will help kind of check some more boxes. And then all of a sudden, I'm comfortable taking him kind of early second round in rookie drafts.
Yeah, and I think the way the NFL is going with two running backs on a lot of teams, like I think he's that 1B guy that's going to get you the catches and just kind of that scat back versus that big running back that's going to get you that first down. And so I'm interested to see what he weighs in at. I've seen a couple of different numbers, and then also that 40 time is important as well for me.
So can Bucky pass block? Is going to be the thing, because I mean, if you listen, it's a thing. Like if you put Bucky on the field and he can't pass block and he can only do one thing, we know what he's going to do. So that really limits the offense's capabilities with him out there, and it kind of sets him up for failure because everybody else out there knows what he's going to do, and everybody else is just as good, if not better, of an athlete. He's
a good runner. I don't want to just pin him in the box if he's only a pass catcher. He's a good running back.
Sure.
Like he can actually run the ball really well too. Like he has good vision. He's shifty. He's bursty. He happens to be a really good pass catcher. So I don't think he's going to be kind of pigeonholed into that just pure pass catching guy. And I don't really think Oregon's offense asked him to do a lot of stay in the block. No,
so because I watched him,
it's kind of hard to say that he can't do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
definitely.
I know
he had to be a check down for Bo Nix.
Yeah, I love Devin Achane, and he's in my opinion, a much better running back than Bucky Irving. But you don't think of Devin Achane as this pass blocking running back either, right? And so I just think Bucky Irving is more of that home run threat versus this, let's put him in there and block, right? I just don't think that's what a team's going to use him for. I think if he can pass block, and I think he can do it good enough, that I think he will be on the field, just like Devin Achane's on the field, right? In my opinion, Devin Achane's a better running back, so he's going to stay on the field more than Bucky Irving is. But they're both a little bit smaller running backs, right? And so I just think the way that the NFL is going, I think they're going to, whatever team he goes to is going to have another running back that will be able to pass block super well. And they're going to have that guy on the field when they need that. They're going down the field and throwing the ball versus, okay, let's have Bucky Irving in. We're going to run him the ball. We're going to, give him a screen or whatever it is. I just don't think they're going to ask him to block.
Yeah, I definitely the landing spot will be a big deal for Bucky.
Actually, I was looking at Devin Achane, and Devin Achane's only 5'9", 5'8", so he's a little smaller than about the same weight. Maybe Bucky's a little bit bigger, 5-10 pounds heavier, but
Achane's like a world-class sprinter though too.
Yes, speed's different, but Achane's also much better than Bucky Irving. But I'm just saying those type of running backs are still very, very useful.
Yeah, I agree. Jalen Polk, I have not got to watch any Jalen Polk yet. I think he spent most of his senior year, or not, I don't know if this is his senior year or not, but he spent most of the past year hurt. But it looks like he should be running super fast. He's getting some
not
height,
so much him. McMillan was the one that was hurt.
McMillan was the hurt one? Okay.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Polk is kind of more probably more of a burner. I'd say.
Yeah,
I
totally.
think he's supposed to be the faster one out of the three of them. I don't know. He feels
Faster than
like
a
he's gonna
Doomsday?
be. Well, maybe
Yes.
not. Maybe not that fast. Do you
Well,
think
they're
so?
like toss up. I think. I mean,
Well, so they
you
have him set at the 4.36 that we just saw for his 40 time. That's what people are betting
yeah,
on.
it'll be close. I think they'll be around the same. That's like it's going to be hard for Polk to go like a low 4.3, and then Odunze goes up 4.3, 6, 7. We're splitting hairs there. But I think the biggest thing with Polk is he was a little bit overshadowed by Rome Odunze. But I think Polk has that speed. Like Spanky said, he's more of a burner. And I do like Jalen Polk, someone that in that second round for Superflex rookie drafts is someone that's going to be a good pick there. And I also think it will just depend a little bit of where he goes, but I think he's kind of more of your downfield threat. He's going to beat you with his speed. He's going to be open for you downfield.
Well, I've seen Jalen Polk kind of mocked around that 50 to 60 pick range. So kind of like a mid second rounder.
Yeah.
Which feels higher than I feel like he should go. And looking at his production profile too, nothing really stood out. He seems fine. Nothing screamed like, oh yes, this dude needs to be a second round draft pick or a top 50 guy, which just kind of seems like where he might be going. So I don't know. I'm a little bit cooler on Jalen Polk personally. I think I have him more as like a third round rookie draft guy myself, but some of that's going to depend on landing spot, and it's whichever one of these guys goes to like Buffalo or Kansas City or like a heavy passing offense, they're going to skyrocket whether they should or not. So.
Yep, I'm 100% with you. It will just also depend on where some of those running backs fall in as well. Then some of those wide receivers in the back end of that second will move back a little bit. So I wouldn't fault anybody taking him in the later second, early third. That's kind of where I'm. But also I think with all these wide receivers, like some of these guys in that group, other than our top 5, 6 of them, it all kind of will depend a lot on landing spot. And so it's with those guys, they'll shift a lot. I feel like once the draft happens.
For
Definitely. Sure. Should we get into Ricky Pearsall, the wide receiver out of Florida, the Pear Man himself?
Yeah.
Ricky Pears, man. I watched him in preparation for the show, and more often than not, I felt like he was open. But I feel like Mertz standing back there was either didn't have the time to look his way, or it was just one read, and that's where he's going with the ball. It was against Georgia, the film that I did watch of him. So, that's tough for anybody to handle. But yeah, there's a lot of times he's streaking across on a crosser, and he's just wide open. He's got some good route running to him, and he had a really good Senior Bowl too.
Yeah, he was like the hot guy one of the hot guys coming out of the Senior Bowl. I think one of the things that I'll be watching at the combine for him is his 40 speed a little bit, just because I think that's one thing that I wouldn't say fully lacks, but he doesn't have that top end speed that a lot of these other wide receivers this year do. So I'll be watching that. And then, but like you said, he's got a really good route tree. He was, I think the thing that held him back the most was his quarterback, right? Because a lot of the same things I watched is he was open, right? He was open a lot. And I think if he gets to the right team, I think he's going to be one of the steals in the draft.
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't think he's overly fast. I have an estimated time of a 4.52 for him, which I think is probably about where he's going to end up.
Seems...
And his profile too is you kind of look at it and you just kind of go his yards per route run is pretty average. It seems like a lot of his stats, his contested targets over the middle of the field are quite a bit lower than some other prospects. His reception percentage when he does get the ball is actually pretty high, both in the medium and deep areas of the field. So it really screams and his drop percentage is one of the lowest that I charted.
Yeah,
so
I saw that too.
Nice.
He's a really good receiver who was really held back by quarterback play. He's one of those guys I really would have liked to see. What would he have looked like at LSU? Outside of William Neighbors instead of Brian Thomas. I think he could have we could easily be talking about him as like a Brian Thomas kind of back into the first guy, had he gotten better quarterback play and a better offense.
Definitely.
And one thing I've talked about it before. That's something that I think keeps players on the field is he is willing to block. That's something like Ladd McConkey does, right? Is they are willingly blockers, right? And that's going to keep you on the field. And so I think there's all those comps out there, and one that I did kind of like was I know JSN is much better, but that was like kind of a comp for Ricky Parcell. Yeah, it's up in the air. But I think if he can be someone like that, that's a better in the NFL. I think he's going to be really good. And like I said, I still feel he's maybe going to be one of the steals of the draft.
Parasol has pretty good size too at 6'1", 192. Is kind of what his listed weight is. I'm curious to see what his actual height and weight are, but that's plenty decent size. I think he's a good. I'm really interested to see where he ends up. I think just kind of what I've been seeing in mocks and stuff, he's going to end up kind of like early third round, kind of somewhere in that range, early to mid third round, which I think is plenty good enough. There's some teams in that area picking that I think he could do well in, like Carolina, Arizona, the Chargers, the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers is there, they could use a guy outside of Garrett Wilson. Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, all guys areas where I think he could fit in pretty well. I think Detroit's one that stands out. He could be Josh Reynolds' replacement, which I think is time. So
yeah.
I mean, I think I'm with you. Like, there's a lot of for him, it's gonna depend on where he goes a little bit, but where he does go, I think it's gonna be like they're gonna love him. And so I think he would be best suited if he goes with a team that already has like a proven number one, right? Because I think he can fit in really well as a WR2 or 3, right? And so I just think he's going to be a good complement to another solid wide receiver.
Definitely.
He played a pretty healthy amount both in the slot and out wide, so I think he can do both. And I think ideally he could be one of those tweeners in like a Shanahan McVay style offense.
Yeah, I for some reason in my head it just popped up to me because I've kind of been hearing that the Texans are kind of in the market for a wide receiver, and if he goes to Houston, man, I would love him to go to Houston. Oh my goodness, what a spectacular spot that would be for him.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like a really, really good spot. I mean, I know they already have 2 really good wide receivers, but exactly what I'm talking about is like he would fit in really well to a team that already has a 1A, 1B guy, and then he fits in as that wide receiver 2 or even wide receiver 3. And I think that like Houston would be awesome. But I even like Detroit because, they need another wide receiver. I know Jameson Williams, it might be coming up, but I just think Jameson Williams is more of that downfield threat, right? They need a guy that they can get the ball to outside of Amon-Ra, but I just think they need another guy. Like Josh Reynolds was solid, but there's too many times where Josh Reynolds dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Which is well good. They have Jameson Williams for that, so they're fine.
Listen, year 3 glow up, it's coming. I just hope he gets a healthy offseason, no hiccups, no suspensions. Let's just keep it under wraps, J-Mo. Just stay calm.
Just exclusively work out at practice at the jugs machine.
Just I agree.
Just catching passes. I don't. He doesn't need to run routes. He's fast. I know he can do that. But dude,
he needs a different,
unreal,
a different gloves.
He needs some stickum like that. The thing that they had on the Little Giants. That kid he has like.
Goff, just stick it in his face mask, man.
Yep. Do we need to see anything else from Ladd McConkey? Or has he kind of proven himself?
He showed what he did at the Senior Bowl. I think that was really telling. The only thing I can think of is that like if he runs, so they have him down at a 4.58. I feel like if he runs that slow, it's probably going to hurt his draft stock. I think at this point he's pretty cemented as like a top 50 kind of pick. maybe
Mhm.
top 60, 65, somewhere in that range. But if he runs a 4.58, I think a lot of teams might back off, which is dumb because if you watch him play, he runs faster than that. Like they give him
Yeah.
the ball on like end arounds and I think he returns punts too. So like you don't do that with someone who's running close to a 4.6. Like that's not. I don't
Right.
know. That doesn't
Right.
seem right. That number seemed way off to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
I
agree.
still see him like in a lot of like rankings for Superflex. I still see him at like 112, 2-1, 2-2. I just feel like if we see him go kind of slow, I don't know. Is that going to hurt him? Do we care? Like, I I don't know. I think we've seen enough from him already that if he does run a little bit slow, I think it's not going to really care too much, especially for us in the fantasy world. Maybe he drops a little bit in the NFL draft, but I agree. I think he's a top 50 guy, top 60 guy. I think at this point, it just
Honestly,
kind of depends where he goes.
if anything, if he
Mm.
runs a little slower and it scares off some dynasty managers, that's more power
Yeah.
to it. If I can get him,
Yeah.
mid second now instead of early second, like
Yep.
I'm stoked about that.
I popped into JB's tiers here because I just want to see where he had him ranked, and he has him all the way down at the 211.
Yeah. And then, but he does have, I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't want to, put words in his mouth, but I feel like he does need to update a little bit because he still has Tez Walker up there high. Well, just with his rookies, just because I think
That's fair.
there's
Good
some
buy.
rookies that we've
This is died.
seen, not do as well as but I was surprised by some of the guys that when I was popping in there and but no, maybe he is smarter than me, so
Yeah, I mean
he's a pretty
JB's
smart
smarter than I
guy.
am too, but I'll just go through his second round here. Jonathan Brooks, I'll take Brooks. Xavier Worthy, give me Ladd. I'll take Ladd over Worthy, Devontae Walker. I'll probably take Jatavian Sanders over him. I'll take Bucky Irving
Yep.
over him, but I'm taking Ladd over Polk, Leggett, Coleman, Corley. You guys know how I feel about Malachi Corley. I was dumping all over him today in our
You were, yeah. It was a
our
big old
Discord.
shitstorm, that's for sure.
yeah. So that's all that I mean is I feel like he could. I don't know. Maybe he's a little down on McConkey than we are, and everybody has their different. That's what we love.
Sure.
That makes it awesome. Is everyone has their different rankings.
Sure.
So, and I
Somehow
think
we're all wrong.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep. Yeah, I can go find 12 people that say I'm wrong and 10 people that say I'm right. So,
Yep.
I think a lot of stuff with Ladd too. I know definitely with JB is kind of more along the lines of McSpanky and more so in the sheets as opposed to the tape. Maybe possibly this is more of a tape versus sheets kind of thing here for Ladd.
Yeah.
I think the thing holding Ladd back is his actual production itself wasn't great because he spent a lot of his freshman and junior, or sorry, his second and fourth year in college is hurt, and he really only had the one full year that he played that he did well. But his yards per route run were good, which is a huge one. His hands are solid. No concerns there. His passer rating when targeted is really high. Some of the things that correlate really well that aren't tied to team production, he hits all the metrics there. Now he never really got that high in terms of team target share, but his targets per route run are pretty average in that 24.15 range. So I can see analytically why you would kind of shy away, but also he's pretty solid. So I'm not, and the things he can do with the ball in his hands, he reminds me so much of watching Golden Tate that I think part of me is just yes, I want that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Should we do these tight ends as a group here?
Sure.
Whoa! Some of these guys are going to show out.
I know your boy Jatavian's going to show out. He's going to be a freak athletically for sure.
Yes, sir. I have a new guy too, though. I really like Benson Ott.
Okay.
I'm a big.
I've heard the
Maybe
name. I've heard
guy.
good things. Kansas
Um,
State, all solid. Tyler Lockett, alma mater.
Yep. I think
True that.
the biggest thing with all these tight ends is
Skylar Thompson.
they're overshadowed by Brock Bowers, right? And so
For sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing Benson Knott. Like they say he's got the speed and the size. So if we can translate that speed, I want to see what he goes in his 40. And so he's got speed, speed, size, and athleticism. That's all you really want in a tight end. So I Kansas State wasn't always on TV. They're like a
Mostly not.
yeah.
That's
So
me.
I'm looking forward to seeing him a bit
It's America's
at the combine,
heartland.
and then and so yeah, Benson Knott's my guy. I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I want to go grab him in the second round. He's firmly in the third round of my rookie drafts, and I think it will, like all these tight ends. Most of the time, it depends on where they end up.
So that's
Definitely.
fair. And Holler and I were talking a little bit before the show started. I mean, this time last year, Sam Laporta was really like an afterthought. It was, Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid just 100% of the way. And then Sam Laporta kind of, the drum beat started kind of at the combine and then just started getting louder and louder. So I fully expect one of these guys, Benson Knott, is a pretty good, bet that I think could also rise. But the one that I really like is Cade Stover. Out of Ohio State. I mean, he really this year. Obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. got the full attention of the offense, but you kind of expected Emeka Egbuka to kind of step up. But really, the guy who was kind of second on the team there was Cade Stover. I remember vividly him just torching Notre Dame's defense over the middle of the field, left and right during that game, which still haunts me a little bit, but. He's more athletic than you think he is, and he actually has had a pretty good like passing profile over the last couple of years. He's a good size, 6'4", 251. I think he's more athletic than you think he is. The Prize Picks had him and Jatavian Sanders listed at the same 40-yard dash time, which kind of took me a little bit by surprise because I just kind of picture Jatavian Sanders being faster. But I really like Cade Stover. I think he's the one for me that's going to end up being the third tight end of this class, and it's going to be the one that you kind of sneak into maybe like the middle of the second round of Superflex tight end premium leagues that you maybe when you look back at it, you're like, oh man, I should have taken him higher.
Yep, I think I really like Cade Stover as well, but I kind of remember you've talked about him before, Spanky, so I wanted to grab somebody else as well. And Jatavian Sanders, I've talked about him quite a bit as well. I've taken him in a few of my debuts. I think it was even like last year, or the year before. And so for him, he's
a long time.
He's more of a like this freak athlete. So I want to see it translate a little bit more. I'm not a huge fan of Quinn Ewers, so I know that whole Texas offense was like meh. So I just think. I think we talked about it maybe last week. I think it was Spanky, but Jatavian Sanders to Miami would be amazing.
Or Cincinnati, even. Cincinnati, Miami.
Yeah.
So like some of these other, Sanders, Stover, Sanat, like if they get really good landing spots, would not argue with anybody by taking any of those three in that middle end of the second round, beginning in the third round. Right. I think if they get the draft capital and they go to a spot that, because we already know like the landscape of the tight ends, right? There's only about, 6 to 8 of them that we feel really good or comfortable about them. And then it's wide after that. And so if, one of these guys shows out, then hopefully you're lucky and you grab them.
The other thing I would say is that I'm more likely to take one of these guys at the back of the second round, just because next year's tight end class. Now, granted, things can change, but it doesn't like there's not a Brock Bowers, there's not a Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer, like there's not a Kyle Pitts. It's pretty bleak. There's not even a Jatavian Sanders next year's class. It's pretty rough. So that being said, I'd be more likely to kind of in the back end of the second take a shot on one of these tight ends, just because next year you're not going to find it. If you don't have a tight end, it's looking pretty rough for next year. Yeah,
we got guys at Georgia, but I don't even know.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the top tight ends, it's like Luke Lachey from Iowa and Oscar Delp from Georgia, and it's like, are we convinced these guys are good, or is it just because the school they play for and they've historically been putting tight ends out lately?
Yeah,
there is a Michigan tight end that I've heard.
AJ Barner,
Colston Loveland. I just pulled up.
Yes, thank you, Loveland. Yep,
Debbie rankings, and like
he
with the
could
tight
be the
ends,
tight
it's
end
hard.
one next year.
Yeah, it's hard to see. I mean, and we got plenty of time for one of those guys to rise up, and so. But I'm on board with you, Spanky. Is get one of those tight ends this year, even if they pull a Michael Mayer, right? And we all thought Michael Mayer would be a lot better than he was last year, but I still feel like he's gonna have a great year coming up here. But I just like, even if they don't show out year one, I'd rather have one of these guys than any of these tight ends coming out next year.
Couple things.
Sure.
One, most tight ends don't do it in year one. We got really spoiled with Kincaid and especially Laporta. What he did was unheard of. That's unreal.
Yeah.
That Laporta put up tight end one season as a rookie. Like that just doesn't happen. Two, Michael Mayer really got shafted by Josh McDaniels.
All right, I
tried to tell you. I tried to tell you.
You really set a fire into me on that one. But Josh McDaniels also doesn't really use rookies, Mayer barely got on the field, and then he got hurt towards the end of the year, so he didn't really get to play towards the back half. But Luke Getsy coming in, he uses the tight end quite a bit. So I don't want to talk about Luke Getsy as like a good thing, but he does use the tight end. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, let's hop into these coaching changes real quick. But you just want to hit the good ones that we're really excited for, and the bad ones.
Yeah. So some of the favorite ones that I had, the coaching staffs I did, so what the Falcons and the Panthers did. So just real quick, the Falcons got Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson over from the Rams. So they're kind of bringing that McVay offense, and Raheem Morris is more of a defensive guy, but Raheem Morris basically said like, I wouldn't be here if the Falcons had better quarterback play last year. So I think that is going to be something that they address. It seems like Justin Fields might be the answer. I think Justin Fields, or even if it's not him, just any like a upgrade at quarterback, and then a competent modern offense with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. That offense and Bijan Robinson, the offense should look a lot better in 2024.
Top 10 picks.
The Panthers. So Dave Canales comes over from Tampa Bay. Brad Isaac is the offensive coordinator, but Canales is the one actually calling plays. Canales was in Seattle in 2022 for Geno Smith's best year that he had, and then last year he was in Tampa, obviously with Baker Mayfield, who had his best year in his career. So I think he's got a bit of a quarterback whisperer kind of vibe going on right now. So that's one of the reasons I'm a little more bullish on Bryce Young. I'm kind of excited. I was not expecting you to say necromancer. I think this is why I'm a little more bullish on Bryce Young, is I think Dave Canales is going to be a big piece of the offense, and I think it's going to look a lot more competent than it did last year.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last week.
Hard to get worse. That's for sure.
Falcons is probably my favorite hire. Outside of, I don't love the Seahawks overall because I'm a Rams fan, but I think they did a really good job of bringing in Mike McDaniel and Ryan Grubb. That defense could be really, really good. That defense is already good. So I think that defense could get even better with a really good defensive mind. And then Ryan Grubb, I just think Ryan Grubb is a really good offensive coordinator. That offense in Washington was really good. Their quarterback was mediocre, and that offense was awesome. And so I think Ryan Grubb can do a really good job with Geno. I'm hoping we get the Geno of 2022 versus 23. And then I'm hoping that they put in or they use JSN a bit more. And then overall, I just feel like Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, we already know what Jim Harbaugh is, but Greg Roman has already come out and said, hey, I want to run the ball. But hey, newsflash, you need a running back to do that. And so I know they've said they want to bring back Austin Eckler, but to me, I just feel like Austin Eckler is going to want to get more money than what he deserves. So I think they should go. They don't have much money, so that's the issue. I think they should just grab a running back in the draft. But I just think Harbaugh and Roman for Justin Herbert is overall going to be really, really good.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys on the excitement ones. I'm a little bit more hesitant on the Panthers. I think the owner there, Tepper, is probably a little too
Yeah.
involved. And also, going from offensive coordinator to now head coach for Canales is going to be a big change as well. Hopefully they get it right. I was pounding the table on Bryce Young last year, so I think they can
He's
at least
still
be
good.
competent for sure.
We gave Trevor
Right.
Lawrence a pass because Urban Meyer was a dipshit year one, so I think we can do the same for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I have some Bryce
Yeah,
Young,
we
and
should.
you know,
We should.
I don't fully hate Bryce Young, and we talked about a lot about it last week, and Bryce Young has he has all the pieces. We just need to I don't want to say give him a little more time, but give him a little more time, especially with Dave Canales, because I feel like he's a very good coach.
For sure.
I agree with Greg.
Definitely.
Dave Tepper is Jared Jones Jr.
Sure.
Do you guys have a favorite new offensive coordinator?
I really like Clint Kubiak out in New Orleans.
Mine as well.
I think bringing a more modern offense, kind of that West Coast, the 49ers, what Shanahan does out into New Orleans, I think will work well for Olave in particular.
Yep.
I think it will also protect Derek Carr from himself. Guys like him who maybe, and like Brock Purdy, who are more reliant on the system to carry them than their own talent. I think it's a really good fit. So I think Derek Carr might actually have a little bit of a bounce back, which is exciting. I think he's a good dude. I hope he does well. But I think that's probably the biggest one. The ones I don't like though, Luke Getsy was not a good day when he got hired for the Raiders. And then Ken Dorsey for the Browns. I don't understand that one. He got fired from the Bills, who immediately after he was fired, the Bills offense was like immediately top 5 in the league for the rest of the year. So I don't understand how bringing him in, who misused Josh Allen, is somehow going to fix Deshaun Watson. I don't understand that hire. It doesn't make sense. Right. It doesn't really, and the Bills didn't run the ball that well, which is kind of what Cleveland likes to do traditionally with Kevin Stefanski. So it doesn't. It feels like a conflict of styles, and it just doesn't. That one didn't. It confused me. It didn't make sense. So
I don't. I don't love this one.
Will Dorsey kind of be the? Oh, I was gonna say, will Dorsey kind of be the clipboard holder to Stefanski though, as play caller?
I mean, maybe.
I don't actually.
Maybe it's more of like a brain trust in Stefanski. I think he did this year. Because I think they fired their OC midway through the year, and I think he took over for play calling.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So
that one just felt weird.
I'm most excited for Joe Brady. Brady to get a second crack at it. He had the all the hype in the world when he was at LSU with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and that offense, and when we thought CEH was good. So I think he definitely deserves another crack at it. And he's got a quarterback. Hopefully they get him wide receiver. Let's see what they can do with old Kincaid. Old Kincaid out there.
So I don't love this pickup, but I think it's going to be pretty good. We talked about it last week as well. But Arthur Smith to the Steelers, I think it's going to be pretty good for the running game. I don't obviously we all hate Arthur Smith as a head coach, but I personally think he is a solid offensive coordinator. Obviously they don't have a Derrick Henry, but they have I think he's a good offensive coordinator. And then the one I don't really understand is Kellen Moore. I just personally think Kellen Moore is not a solid coach, offensive coordinator, whatever. Overall, I just don't think he's a very good coach. I think he's kind of overblown. He really stunk it up in with the Chargers. And there's already a lot of I'm going to say controversy, but a lot of issues in Philadelphia already with their head coach. That now you're bringing in Kellen Moore. I just think that's going to be. I wouldn't say I'm out on Jalen Hurts,
It's more
but
of a name hire.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And so I have some worries with Jalen Hurts.
That's
Yeah,
another one where
I
it's
feel
like
like
the styles didn't
yeah,
mesh
that's
right? Like
that's
Kellen
what I was
Moore
gonna say.
is a pass heavy dude, which is kind of the
Yeah.
opposite of what Philly has done well. So I
don't want to
fully
see Jalen
understand that
Hurts
one.
throwing the ball, 30 times a game.
Yeah.
He needs to run the ball. It's got to be RPOs, man. Like,
Right.
he's a one-trick pony. So yeah, I mean, we get that. Honestly, that's probably the one I hate the most. I thought it would be Cliff Kingsbury. Getting a
but
crap. I think that's a close second. I just think I've probably written off Washington yet again. With everything that they're doing, I think Dan Quinn is just kind of middle of the road.
Yep.
He had Kyle Shanahan that kind of kept them afloat in Atlanta for the Matt Ryan years when we had elite Matt Ryan. So yeah, I don't have much excitement for that, especially for the rookie quarterback that's going to step in there.
Yeah,
they do have good weapons, but I don't
Brian
know.
Robinson, baby.
It's a better situation than whatever quarterback goes to New England. So
that is very true. I don't think they're taking a quarterback.
I don't love Cliff Kingsbury, but I think he is an okay offensive coordinator. Like he's got a solid offensive mind, but just put him with Dan Quinn and they're like mediocre. Like there's nothing like woo about it,
Yeah. Wasn't Kingsbury the head coach for Texas Tech when Pat Mahomes was there and they went like 6-6 every year?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Talk about mismanaging a all-time quarterback.
I think he's an okay offensive coordinator. I don't think he's a good head coach.
Granted, the offense was that bad boy was humming in Lubbock. So
yeah, really good offense. Yeah,
it always is though, man. They just run the air raid and freaking Big 12 football.
Fair.
Do you guys know any big thoughts on Liam Cohen? For some reason, his name just keeps sticking out to me. I guess more for Baker's sake than anything.
Yeah,
I didn't think Canales would get a head coaching job when I acquired a couple Baker shares. I'm kind of upset now.
Yeah, he came over from the Rams, right? Liam Cohen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take it.
That tree is humongous.
Face farts, so.
He was the offensive coordinator for the Rams in 2022, and then he went to Kentucky to be the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach.
Oh,
that guy, Levis. Yeah.
Yes.
He was with Levis. Okay.
Well, no, because Levis was in the NFL.
Levis was in the NFL
that year.
Yeah.
He was with Devin Leary, I think, was at Kentucky this last year. Which save yourself some time. It wasn't good.
It wasn't.
Oh, wonderful.
Because I have a really good wide receiver, and he was mediocre.
So that one is concerning. So Liam Cohen's the new OC for the Bucs. He is from that McVay tree, so hopefully that rubs off. But I'm a little worried for Baker. I know it's kind of off topic a little bit, and we're probably running over time. But if Baker doesn't have Mike Evans back, and he has an offensive coordinator losing Dave Canales is big. He's like I just mentioned, he gave Baker and Geno their best career years in 2 back-to-back years. Like that's a red flag, right?
100%.
Yeah. I think for my final thought, Canales should be known as the necromancer from here on out. And what do you guys got?
I love it. Go bet, not to promote gambling. Do it responsibly, but take the under on Ladd McConkey at 4.58. Take the over on Blake Corum at 4.39.
Stonks.
And look out next week for Fantasy Effect Listener League number 4.
Ooh.
I'm gonna get it going next week.
What a tease.
After we get some more rookie.
Rookie.
Yeah, let's put the rookies in there too.
Yeah, well, rookies will be in it. Rookies will be in it for sure.
All right.
Hey,
you're gonna have to make some choices.
That's right.
Yeah,
good ones.
All right.
bad ones.
Let's get out of
Who
here.
knows? All right.
Peace.
Peace out, guys.